Welcome everybody to the first episode of Anime Review Corner. I'm your host, Mega Big Bowser, here to look at an anime that continues Shinichiro Watanabe's brand of anime goodness. Space Dandy. Now this is where I would give you a synopsis of the very basic premise of the show, but I'll let the opening scene that plays at the beginning of each episode speak for me.
Space Dandy. He's a dandy guy in space. He combs the galaxy like his pompadour on the hunt for aliens. Planet after planet he searches, discovering bizarre new creatures both friendly and not. These are the spectacular adventures of Space Dandy and his brave space crew in space.
Yep, couldn't have said it any better myself. But to elaborate a bit, Space Dandy is an anime by Shinichiro Watanabe. Yes, that Shinichiro Watanabe. Where a motley crew of lazy alien hunters go on various episodic adventures. These adventures could include taking a little alien girl back to her grandpa, getting stuck in a time loop, or fighting with some aliens over which is better, boxers or vests. Yeah, most of the episodes have very strange plot lines. And usually, at the end of the episode, the crew comes out no better than they were in the beginning of the episode. Or sometimes, they come out worse. Huh, sounds familiar. The major characters of Space Dandy are a joy to watch. Firstly, we have Dandy, the titular main character of the series. Where you mix Zap Brannigan and Johnny Bravo in a blender, you get Space Dandy. He's the captain of his vessel, the Aloha Oi, a very lazy alien registration hunter, and a lover of the booty.
Then you know that the real show is down below. The booty, baby. That's where it's at. Nothing trumps the rump, my friend. Anyone who can't see that is either blind or a fool.
Now Dandy may respect the booty, but he also loves boobies. And by boobies, I mean the space hooters of the galaxy. Full of scantily clad waitresses and apparently good food.
Yeah!
Dandy's made it his mission in life to visit every single one. He dreams of buying out the chain someday and eating every meal there.
When it's about boobies, the narrator suddenly cares.
Next up in the character list is QT, Dandy's main partner in crime. He is an older model robot, similar in look to a robotic vacuum cleaner, who has been with Dandy for a long time, although we don't have an exact estimate as to how long he's been with Dandy. He supports Dandy with any knowledge he has in his database, usually playing the straight man of the group, but he isn't without fault though. Sometimes he can be a little lazy, and his only real major fault as a person is that he is an older model robot. So he can't always give Dandy the exact information he needs, or if he can, it's not usually readable.
I can't read circle!
It says I don't know.
You printed that?
Next is...
Time for an intro. So, what's your name?
Minimum.
Say what?
Could you repeat that?
Minimum.
Huh? What'd he say?
Who knows?
Geez, it's a common name.
Well, in honor of you looking like a cat, how about... meow?
Yes, Meow, or Meow for short. He's a Beetlejuician, not that one, a cat-like alien who is basically the most recent and most lazy of the crew, although Dandy is not that far off. He's generally the dimmest of the three due to his addiction to and almost dependence on his phone and social media. But even he plays the straight man sometimes when Dandy goes off on some idea or thought process.
Way to live.
That was pretty deep in a stupid, rambling kind of way.
His cat appearance, and even his name, aren't just there for show. He even acts much like a cat at various times, leading to some really great humor moments. Last major character mention goes to Dandy's surrogate Dr. Claw named Dr. Gel, and his assistant Bee. Dr. Gel being a gorilla-like scientist with a burning need to pursue and capture Dandy, and his assistant Bee being a small bean-headed assistant who works for him. They both pursue Dandy under the leadership of a cosmic Skeletor named Admiral Perry of the Gogol Empire. Now, why the Gogol Empire wants Dandy, nobody really knows, but there's a reason. Heck, even the narrator can kind of be a major character in some of the plot lines, coming in with descriptions, quips, or sometimes even interacting with the plot itself.
Space Century 0014. Mankind has unlocked the heady secrets of space travel, but in the vastness of space, humans are but one of a myriad of species. There are countless others, like that one, and those, and all of them, far too many to name. No, seriously, I'm done.
Wow, he really phoned that one in, didn't he?
No kidding. How do I get that job?
Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that there's a galactic war going on? Yeah, I'll just let the narrator explain.
So, I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but the Gogol Empire and the Jicro Empire are currently locked in a life-or-death battle for ultimate control of the universe. But never mind all that, back to the Aloha Oi.
There are many other side characters in the series, like the few continually returning characters, the boobies waitress Honey, and the desk woman of the Alien Registration Center, Scarlet. There are also episode-specific side characters who are there for that episode's plotline until it's resolved for better or for worse. These episodes are usually some of the best in my opinion, just because they really help the main characters grow to interact with these side characters for a full length of an episode. Now, there are probably those who went to film school or went to some sort of art school that could gush or denounce every bit of the cinematography in any show I talk about. But I'm not that kind of person. I'm just your typical anime watcher, mostly. But I still have to say that this animation is astonishing at times. Like, it is literal eye candy at points. What with its usually vibrant color patterns and its super fluid animation, or sakuga as I've learned from Glass Reflection, just makes the show a beauty to behold. And that's not counting that the art style is constantly changing, almost every episode, with its main style being used most of the time and still looking very pretty. But certain episodes have unique artistic takes with the lighting, the colors, and even in the literal animation styles. For example, there is an episode where the vibrant colors take a backseat for a black and white crayon colored pencil aesthetic. While in another episode, the animations and character design are very Studio Ghibli-esque. Regardless, the animation in this show is truly astounding, and with 26 episodes of beautiful art styles, it's definitely one of the prettiest animes I've personally seen. The music for this series is phenomenal, with a capital P. It's very unique in that, much like the animation, the sound usually has a main style being a techno, funk, disco kind of vibe, but with it being in space and having very vibrant colors. But even then, the music can take different strides in certain episodes, such as a certain song sounding like a stereotypical 80s training song, a scene with a relaxing guitar melody, and a high school musical style song. Yes, I'm not lying about that last one. Some of the songs are so atmospheric in the background and just blend well with the colors in some of the slower scenes and even some of the frenetic scenes as well. The opening for Space Dandy was actually cut from the first few episodes of the dub, but once they realized people wanted the opening, they decided to put it in. And let me tell you, this is probably one of my favorite anime openings ever, simply for the fact that this song, Viva Namida, is so bombastic and full of energy to pump you up for another fun adventure with the Dandy crew. Unfortunately, the Japanese ED was cut entirely from the whole series in dub, and replaced with one of the other background songs turned into the credits. I don't know the reasoning, but if you can, look it up. It sounds pretty good. But this show definitely has a soundtrack that you should check out. Now, I've only seen the dub of Space Dandy, although if you're a sub purist, then I've heard the sub is actually pretty good. But if you're more into dubs, or just swing either way based on recommendation, like me, then boy, is this the dub for you. I don't know how many times these joke deliveries made me laugh my ass off, or how much I think all of these voices really fit the characters being portrayed.
Forget you two. When I look out into the night sky, I'll see you, watching over me.
Did you hear that? He ain't coming back.
Man, you think you know somebody.
I don't know much about American anime voice actors, and if you told me all these other people are amazing at other characters, I'd honestly believe you. But man, is Ian Sinclair as Dandy just a charm. He gets into that role of a layabout space explorer with a great personality and a love for boobies so well. The fact that dub actually got broadcasted in America first is a really interesting thing. Probably some deal with Toonami, since it was making its shining return around the same time. Alright, so in these next two sections, there's going to be some spoilers. I'm going to be talking about the culture in Space Dandy, and I'm going to be talking about the last two episodes of Space Dandy, which is basically the end of the series. Now, if you're not wanting to hear spoilers, click on the annotation to go right to my conclusion. If you don't want to hear spoilers and you're not really wanting to hear the conclusion, go watch the series. But if you're alright with hearing some spoilers, then go on right ahead. We good? We good. Space Dandy loves, and I mean loves, its pop culture references. From Terminator 2, to The Fly, to Godzilla, to even a high school musical themed episode with an 80s training montage, including generic 80s sounding training music. This show definitely knows how to please Western audiences with its amount of references, and even in its general style. The show also has Japanese cultural references, although I honestly, as an American viewer, wouldn't be able to spot them all. But an example of this would be in the second episode, where an alien running a ramen shop in another dimension recounts the story of his youth. And in that story, he is part of a stereotypical Japanese biker gang, where his lover dies because he accidentally breathes fire on her. In most stories like this, the girlfriend or friend of the biker usually dies in some crash or in some shady business, and then the person gets upset and they change. Well, this happens in Space Dandy, although it involves a lot of fire and going to another dimension to run a ramen shop. In another episode, a dog from the Russian space program, which is an actual thing, is found by Dandy and crew on another planet. Unfortunately, the dog dies, and Dandy and his crew shoot his body into space in a rocket, at which time the three pray for him. Now, prayer is not necessarily a cultural reference, as most people who are religious can pray in various ways, but the bowed head with hands clasped while standing in a line feels very ceremonious in a real Japanese way. Now, I bet you're asking, how do you end an episodic series? I mean, it's episodic, so the main plot line, if there is any, doesn't really matter, and even if there isn't any, then there's nothing to talk about. Well, actually, the last two episodes kind of tie together, and actually go on to explain why the series is episodic. In the second to last episode, Dandy is under trial for a murder he did not commit, in very zany episodic fashion. But in this episode, we meet a particularly special character, named Professor Duran, a scientist for the Jicro Empire, who defends Dandy under the pretense of pionium. Yes, pionium. A substance mentioned many a time throughout Space Dandy, usually as a plot MacGuffin that somehow starts, furthers, or ends the plot of some of the episodes. This pionium being based off the Higgs boson, or God particle, a particle in particle physics that is still not completely understood yet. but in Space Dandy it is said to be able to warp time and space, as well as having a lot of energy. He defends Dandy, stating that the murder happened because Pionium warped reality to cause an unrelated event to supposedly murder the deceased. And the last episode of Space Dandy takes place right after this, as Professor Duran makes a note on how they couldn't get a good DNA scan of Dandy, and all of a sudden, as Dandy's walking out of the courthouse, he notices the Gogol Empire has them surrounded. And unfortunately, they capture Space Dandy. Now, they actually take Space Dandy to the Gogol Empire's main base, where Dr. Gel and B try to experiment on him by scanning his body and noticing that he has a decent amount of Pionium in him. The Gogol Empire wants Space Dandy because they want to turn his Pionium energy into a space weapon that will be used against the Jicro Empire. The Jicro Empire now knows this because Professor Duran was there at the trial to notice that Space Dandy may have had Pionium in him, and he informs Johnny, the leader of the Jicro Empire, and from one of the previous episodes, a member of Space Dandy's band that he made, who then decides to launch a full assault on the Gogol Empire. While this is happening, Meow and QT inform Scarlet and Honey that Dandy is in trouble, so all four of them set out to the Gogol Empire's main base, only to find that they are in the middle of the giant space battle that has just begun. Meanwhile, while this is happening, and yes, this plot actually gets very convoluted in this last episode, B actually betrays Dr. Gel, saying that he was a spy for the Jicro Empire, and that he in fact is not a spy anymore. He's also betraying the Jicro Empire as well. All this because he wants to gain power and basically rule the universe with Dandy's Pionium energy. Unfortunately, the superweapon has been activated. And after being confronted by Johnny, Admiral Perry informs Johnny that nobody can stop the superweapon, not even him. After which we then see that Admiral Perry's true identity is an older guy in a business suit outfit. It really kind of blows the illusion, actually, of this maniacal villain who may be super powerful, but yet he's just a lowly businessman. Dandy and crew are informed by the dying Dr. Gel that the superweapon will destroy the entire universe if Dandy doesn't do something about it. So Dandy tells his crew that he's going to be going in alone. He doesn't want them risking their lives any further. Unfortunately, the Aloha Oi has been destroyed, but Dr. Gel allows Dandy to use his ship. Dandy mans the Lady Liberty ship in its full form and heads straight for the superweapon. Strangely enough, the superweapon creates two giant blue and red dragon creatures that destroy most of the Jicro Empire's fleet. And Dandy heads straight for the superweapon, taking a lot of damage from the superweapon's power. Dandy then jettisons himself out of the ship, heading right toward the superweapon. He punches the superweapon at an ungodly speed, destroying the superweapon, himself, and consequently the whole universe.
Anyone know what that light's about?
Yeah, I got nothing.
It's glorious.
After we fade back in, we see that Dandy is sitting in a cosmic realm, where we hear the narrator. The narrator actually tells Dandy that he is a cosmic being, basically a god, who has been watching Dandy for a long time now, and that Dandy is the only person who can literally transcend time and space and go through multiple dimensions. I'll let the narrator explain Dandy's power.
You are someone who can conceivably be one and the same while simultaneously existing in all other universes. In other words, you are the one and only being who can freely pass between the different dimensions.
The narrator then offers Dandy the seat of God, telling him that he's going to be his replacement. Dandy then reflects to himself. He thinks if he's God, he won't have a human body anymore. And then without a human body, he won't be able to have fun at boobies anymore. So what does Dandy do? He literally kicks the seat of God and tells him, I'm not doing this. Consequently, this destroys the entirety of the cosmic realm that he was in, and the narrator yells out the fact that because Dandy is denying his place, there will literally be no God of the universe.
Stay dandy, baby.
We time travel 14.8 billion years later to see Dandy in the Aloha Oi with QT making the same monologue he made from the first episode. But Dandy pauses and asks QT if QT is really QT. QT responds in a strange manner, saying, of course I'm QT. And after that, Dandy goes on to say that the best thing about women are the legs, baby. And that's where the series ends. This last episode is beautifully epic and stupidly clever, because it not only explains why the series is episodic, why characters die in one episode and the plotline just kind of resets in the next, but also even why the narrator interacts with the characters, because he was a god the whole time. And Dandy refusing the seat of God is so Dandy that you kind of almost expect it. You almost expect Dandy to be that stupid, yet so true to himself. And because of that, in the end, you're happy to see that the timeline sort of resets, that the universe is back to the way it was. We don't know whether Dandy still has Pionium in him, whether or not he'll kill himself in the next adventure he's in, whether or not, if there is no God anymore, maybe there will be no way for anyone to die or for anything to really happen in the universe. But all we know is that Dandy is still Dandy. And that's all we need to know in this series, baby. Space Dandy is not for everyone. Its humor can be simple, sometimes vulgar, and the series is done in a very episodic way. But personally, I think its animation is stunning, its music very pleasant, and its characters and stories actually pretty compelling, and just simply a joy to watch. In a strange way at the end of it all, it still surprised me with how the show actually ended, and how it even made the entirety of the series kind of make sense on why it's episodic. Hopefully my review served in some capacity to get you into the show, or if you've already seen the show, you enjoyed hearing my opinion. If I had to give the show a ranking, I would give it a 5 out of 5. It is definitely a stellar show, and I would definitely tell you to check it out. See ya, Space Dandy. Hello there, everybody. I just want to say that I am glad that I was able to make this review. I took some inspiration from some of my favorite anime YouTubers, and I'll put their annotations in the video right now. You've probably already heard or seen these guys before if you're into anime. So I definitely think that they're all stellar guys though, and that you should check them all out if you haven't already. And thank you guys, the viewers, seriously, thanks to all of you for watching. Because this is actually a midterm project for my college, and I don't know if I'll ever do another one in the future, but hopefully I will, and I hope that you guys all enjoyed this review regardless. I hope that you all have a good day, good evening, or good night, wherever you are. Thank you.